Thanks so much for following along in Lesson 9. In this lesson, we talked about how to hook a fish, how to reel in a fish, and how to net and safely release a fish. Some of the key things to summarize this lesson are: make sure to give the fish enough time to bite your fly before you set the hook. Second, once the fish is on the line, make sure that you are constantly keeping contact with the fish by keeping tension on your rod. You can tell if you have tension on the end of your rod if your rod tip is bent. If it is bent, great, that means there's tension and that the fish can't get enough slack to get the right angle to get off the hook. If it's not bent, that means you need to pull in some line to create some more tension on the fish. Meanwhile, while you're keeping tension on the fish, you also need to try and get the line on the reel. So it's a little bit of multitasking, but at the same time, try and get the line on the reel so that you can let the reel do the work for you. Once you're able to get the line on the reel, keeping your rod tip nice and high to keep that tension going, we're going to try and fight the fish to the point where we can bring it into the net. If you start to notice while your line is on the reel that the fish swims towards you, that's okay. You can actually reel in on the reel. This will create tension similar to as when we were pulling in the line. Once we net the fish, it's very important that we keep the fish in the water. I like to keep the fish fully submerged in the water in the net. This is safest for the fish and will make sure that the fish goes back healthy to the water. During this time, I can go ahead and get my pliers or my forceps to remove the fly safely. Assuming that you've debarbed, which we should have, the fly will easily slip out of the fish's mouth. Once the fly is removed, I go ahead and cradle the fish in the water. One important thing to remember is before touching or handling a fish, it's key that you wet your hands before making any contact with the fish. They have a natural slime on them that's very important for keeping a protective layer to protect them against infections, bacteria, and fungus. Once you've wet your hands, you're able to actually touch the fish and cradle it so that it can swim back into the water on its own. Never rush a fish. Sometimes they need to sit there and catch their breath, and that's okay, especially if you're in a river. Imagine you're a fish. It's hard to be caught, fight against an angler, be netted, and then immediately released back into the current. You're probably a little bit shocked, a little bit scared, and you just need to catch your breath. So I always recommend making sure to cradle the fish very gently, and when the fish is ready, it will swim out of your hands. Thanks, Brooke. You did such a good job. Thank you so much. That was fun. I hope that after this you feel more comfortable casting, and hopefully when you get out there and you're practicing your casting, if you catch a fish, you're going to know what to do.
Thank you. I feel so much better.